What is up? Osiris here, stuck in the middle. I got good feedback on a couple of my videos, and it appeared that I was contradicting myself, and people were asking for clarification. I appreciate the comments have been so respectful. The and what people were saying I contradicted myself on was Black Lives Matter as a Marxist organization, Antifa as an anti-fascist, anarchist organization, and yet I'm saying that the Democrat establishment is using them. Like Lil Baby did his performance, CBS Grammys aired it to us. What is going on? Like, if it's a Marxist organization, are they promoting Marxism? So I'm going to kind of go through this structure to kind of map out what's in my head when I'm talking about these things, because I can understand why that sounds like a contradiction. But we've got to start at the top. Establishment, big money interest donors. These two squares that you see here are both the oligarchy. So when you hear somebody say oligarchy, it's establishment, big money interest donors, establishment, right and left. This establishment is both Democrats and Republicans, entertainment, mainstream media, big tech. The definition of oligarchy is a form of power structure in which the power rests with a small number of people. These people may or may not be distinguished by several characteristics like nobility, that's the hierarchy across the pond with the king, queen, wealth, education, corporations, religion, politics, military. That's it, for example. So everything starts with the money. Private equity firms. There are some private equity firms that are so controversial in nature, I don't even want to say in this video because I don't know if it would be blocked or cause attention. So you can Google on that. Private equity firm. There's a good YouTube channel called We Are Change, and Luke Rudowski talks about that. Big banks, Motion Picture Association, Wall Street, big tech. Jake and I have had our disagreements, but if he's right, he's right. This is from a few years ago. Jake explains it very well.
We often talk about the establishment in politics. We talk about it on the Young Turks, the establishment media talks about it, but they refer to the establishment as a collection of people, senators, congressmen, party officials, etc. That is not the establishment. So I want to be clear with you guys and give you a better understanding of who actually runs politics. See, the donors run politics. Everybody else is a water boy. Senators and politicians, they take orders. They're given checks to run for office, and then afterwards they're given large checks for their personal reasons. Hillary Clinton with the speeches she gives to the banks. Chris Dodd gets hired by the Motion Picture Association. Evan Bayh, almost all the Republicans go and work either for private equity, Wall Street, or one of the corporations that they have been servicing throughout their careers. Now, that's the true establishment.
So that's the establishment, big money interest donors. These two big red squares, they kind of interact with each other. That's why I made them both red. So, for example, Jeff Bezos, used to be CEO of Amazon. Amazon is also in the entertainment industry, also a corporation. He's in both categories. Above. Now, both of these establishment categories are above politicians. We have not even gotten to establishment politicians. We are before that. We are looking at who they answer to. This is above the establishment politicians. So if you look at these two here, that's what we would call our oligarchy. That's the oligarchy, both of them together. And you could even include the politicians as well. You could even include the politicians down here. That's the oligarchy. But the red ones are the ones that really control things. So let's look at the establishment connection here to media. The media is the most important group of all. This is the second group right here. Entertainment, media, big tech, news, education. I mean, that's basically our culture. Everything is in this culture. And what I'm doing is this side is the right side. So you still have underneath the establishment, you have right and left. So I want to make sure I establish that. I'm from Cleveland. The Cleveland Browns play the Pittsburgh Steelers. There's a rivalry. The fans hate each other. The players hate each other. The owners, maybe even some of the coaches, maybe even. They both play for the NFL. Do not let intra-squad fights within the establishment fool you. Mitch McConnell going at it with Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer. Yeah, they are really trying to angle for power within the establishment. They are not outside of they aren't really true enemies. They're just fighting within that group. So the media is the most important. Common people are down here. Common people do not have a direct connection to most politicians. Usually you see them through the media. You find out about them. The common people don't have direct connections to these guys up here. These are the 1% of the 1%ers up here. The common people do not have direct ties to the oligarchy. So that's all funneled through the media here, left and right. So for example, Lincoln Project is an establishment group on the right. They are not fighting. They are fighting to protect the establishment. That's what that Lincoln Park group was. Fox News is an establishment news right over here. Fox News is on the right of the establishment. They are an establishment network. Don't be fooled by intra fights like CNN. CNN's on the left and Fox is on the right. Don't be fooled by that. They are in the same establishment group. Let me show you an example of the money connection now between the oligarchy and the politicians. These are establishment politicians, again, on the right and the left. So let me look at some donations for 2020. Alphabet, Google's parent company. Total contributions, $21 million. Top recipients, Joe Biden, Democrat Super PAC. Beyond that, Google CEO Sundar Pichai he's a part of the group as a person, and he's the CEO of Google. So they kind of can double dip a little bit with it. So he contributed $10,000 through donations, and then Google did $21 million on top of that to Joe Biden and Democratic Super PAC. Most of it went to them. $17 million from Microsoft to the same group, Joe Biden, Democratic Super PACs. Now, Microsoft did 14% to Republicans. These groups so this is Microsoft up here and Google and all these companies I'm naming. They are media, they are entertainment, they are big tech. But notice they are also donors. So they are donating and they don't really care if it's establishment right or left. The difference with 2020 was you had MAGA. Trump and MAGA they were not tied into the establishment. So they didn't have a Republican in the general election. They didn't have a Republican establishment to bet 50-50 on, like if it's Mitt Romney versus Hillary Clinton or something like that, or Obama when it was Obama. You could donate 50-50 and whoever wins, I got money in the game, they'll answer to me. They wanted to get rid of this. That's why you're seeing so much of the donations heavy on the Democrat side. Amazon, 8.9 million. Facebook, 6 million. Apple, 5.7 million. Twitter, 689,000. So you're seeing all of that with the top recipients of those were the establishment left, which was Joe Biden. So you're kind of seeing what's happening here. This whole game of the right and left is really one team. So when we discuss any one of our elections, we have a media that has a conflict of interest. In particular, in 2020, the conflict of interest was bigger than ever because it wasn't here's like I said, on the right, oh no, it's not right. Romney. It wasn't something, I'm just putting Romney in there, and Obama on the left. And then they could do 50-50. So like Amazon could they probably wouldn't do 50-50, maybe it would be 60-40 or whatever, but then normally it would be split more evenly between the establishment, kind of like hedging my bets. I don't know who's going to win. And as you get closer to the election, you see who has the tide, then they take the money and put it all to that candidate pretty much. So, and that Goldman Sachs, all these companies. What we had was Trump on the other side. So if you have any type of situation, I don't want to talk about 2020 because that will get, whatever. Just in any election, if you have a candidate, it could be somebody on the progressive that's not tied to the establishment. It could be whatever. So it could be, I'm just going to put new left. It doesn't matter. If you're new left party and you're not tied to the establishment, there is a bias there. That's what happened with the Hunter Biden story. Big tech, they put all this money on the Democrats and Joe Biden. They see the story come out and it's bad against Joe Biden. People, maybe it's not as bad as it looks or whatever. People might overreact. They're like, we got to shut it down. Now, I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't know. I can't prove that that's what happened. But what I can prove is there's a conflict of interest. That is a fact. There is no disputing that. There is a conflict of interest where you look at Twitter was a big part of it, and they actually suspended the New York Post account. Twitter's right here. So Twitter decided, oh, there was some bad news against our establishment Biden candidate. That helps this. We can't control that dude. He's not even taking our money. We can't control him. So we got to stop it so we can big up Biden. That is the appearance. I'm not saying that's what happened. Their conflict of interest allows me to speculate on that. If they don't want people speculating on it, they don't have to do a conflict of interest. They could have gave money to Trump. And if it was 50-50, I would say, I don't like the money in politics, but it's not a conflict of interest. So when it comes to the decision of censorship, we see that there's a conflict of interest. And then now we see after the election, we still see there's a difference in how they covered Trump and Joe Biden, not just big tech, the whole media. So as you can see, when you look at this group here, so this group, this second establishment group right here includes Hollywood. It includes everything, culture, education, universities, all that. You can see big tech has the biggest problem. You're watching this on big tech, probably YouTube. Big tech has a problem because big tech is allowing people to go into their basement and take a camera and talk directly to people. So I'm on YouTube. I'm using big tech to talk directly to you. I've got no ties into either one of these. I've got no ties. The only tie I have into YouTube is I'd like to keep my channel. But there's you can go to alternative sites as well. You probably won't have as big of an audience, but you see the problem. The money interest doesn't control me. It doesn't control Tim Pool, as we know. I don't see a reason in the information I get from him, I don't see that it would. So you can see the problem and why Barack Obama, who was really for the internet at first, he changed his mind. He called the internet a danger to our democracy. He called the internet a threat to our democracy. That's why. But Obama is one of the best establishment candidates ever. Because he was an establishment candidate that had love from a lot of common people on the right and the left, and allowed them to do whatever they needed to do, drop bombs, do whatever they need to do. And this guy put that good look, that good face on it. I'm not saying everything Obama did was wrong, but he did play that part without question. Okay, so good. Let's talk about culture. So this is all culture in here. And sometimes I've gotten feedback. I even had someone who left following me from Twitter because my Twitter feed is always slanted as far as if you look at the percentage of times I criticize Republicans or criticize Democrats, I criticize Democrats more often recently. There's a reason for that. There's a couple reasons for that. One of the reasons is Trump was outside the establishment. My concern isn't with somebody so much outside the establishment as long as they're not after me. So I didn't really have a concern with MAGA. I like MAGA people, even though I'm not a part of MAGA. They're off to their side. There's no reason for me to have a conflict with them or really be calling them out or anything like that. This is the group making moves. That's where you point out when they do things right, where they do things wrong. And the strong arm of this group is on the left. It's not cool to be a Republican in most places in this country. That's where I bring it down to culture. When you look at Hollywood, how many people in Hollywood are even out of the closet as a Republican? Not many at all. And what happens when they do? They get put out. Because if you go outside, the Democratic arm here is on the left. So if you're on the right, it's okay. But if you go outside of this to anything else, then it's a problem. Then you have to be out. Because this is you're out of the structure. And we can't control you. If you're not gonna talk like we talk, do what we want you to do, like LeBron James, why do you see LeBron James out to put the vote for Joe Biden or talking? He's basically a Democratic talking point. He is entertainment. He is one of their entertainment leaders, the face of this big donor class. So when you look at the media, you look at a channel like the Convo Couch, one of my favorite channels. They are separate. They are not attached to the establishment. They are on the left. They've been demonetized. Why? Because their talking points, you can't be controlled. So all big tech has to say is, people down here, people, that's you and me, we have to protect you. We have to protect you from that group because that group is not tied in to the establishment talking point. So to protect you, we have to demonetize. At least they're still on YouTube, but that's why you're seeing this type of censorship. So let's look at Trump. What you're going to see is people try to fake you out. Ted Cruz is one of those. I think highly of Ted Cruz. He's one of the smartest representatives, House or Senate of my lifetime that I've seen. He's a very bright guy. I like Ted Cruz. But Ted Cruz is as establishment as they come. He is with the establishment right. Over the last 4 years, he has been working hard to appear sympathetic to that group. Almost like he's infiltrating it, almost like he's leveraging it. He wants to be the face of that group to run for president potentially, so the establishment can control him and everyone under MAGA. Because right now, when you look at MAGA, the people, these are the people at the bottom. The people here aren't buying establishment media and establishment donors. They can't reach these people. They don't care to, they don't want to. Ted Cruz is going to be one of those faces to try to reach them. And as much as I like Ted Cruz, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's not really MAGA. He's not a populist, but he's been acting like one. Very, very smart. So there's been some beef with progressives and people like Jimmy Dore. Let's look at the progressives and now get to the Black Lives Matter. Progressives, right here. The problem is, I don't know for sure. I can't prove that the progressives are tied into this is the establishment politics left and right. I can't prove that they're tied in. But Jimmy Dore, it doesn't matter, really. We look at their actions. Jimmy Dore just recently commented on a video that AOC did, and it comes across as AOC trying to present as populist to reach these people here who don't like establishment. Like Nancy Pelosi can't reach these people, but AOC can. And this video comes across as her trying to reach these people on half of this establishment. And I don't know. That's what it comes across as.
This is going to be tough to get through, but I'm going to try to do it fast. Here's AOC one more time. One more time, gaslighting you, which is another form of lying, and she's doing it right to a camera, and people are buying this garbage. She says, if you care about student debt cancellation, it's time for you. It is go time for you. You need to mobilize.
Let's talk about student loans, because I found something very interesting in this bill. Now, before everyone gets ahead of themselves, there is not student loan cancellation in this bill, but
there's something even worth less. Watch this.
there is a provision that feels like an Easter egg, which I think gives us
It feels like I was feeling it around, and it felt like it, but it smelled like a shit egg. But I don't know. It feels like it, but smells like shit. Here we go.
some hope, because not only are college students going to get, stimulus checks that they didn't get last year, but I noticed, and some people noticed, that there is a tax provision tucked away that says if your student loans get canceled, that cancellation, you don't have to pay taxes on that cancellation.
Okay. She already said there is no student debt cancellation in the bill. But if there was, you wouldn't have to pay taxes on it. Here's your Easter egg. Open it up. It's empty. What in the shit, Ron? What in the...
So let's get to Black Lives Matter and Marxism. At its core, at its start, Black Lives Matter is a complete Marxist, harmful organization. So here's what happened. In last year, Black Lives Matter started well before last year, but let's just go with last year. Last year, everyone was locked down for the most part, and you usually need people out and coming, meeting them face to face to help get them registered to vote. They were very scared that Trump was going to win. So the establishment, I'm just going to go with the politicians. The establishment politicians here needed to get people out. So people were upset after they saw what happened with George Floyd. And there's this group called Black Lives Matter that was getting a lot of attention, money. So the money doesn't excite me because the money is coming from these people. That's not a revolution. If they are the ones donating to your cause, how are you revolting against them? That makes no sense. So that's what they did. They said, everybody likes this cause, get it. We're donating money to this cause. This cause called Black Lives Matter, the organization, but people on the streets protesting. And what happened is the establishment said, that's a good time to get the vote.
Protesters turned out in droves, many for the first time, to call for change in a system they say discriminates against Black Americans. But will that activism make a difference at the ballot box? ABC's Rachel Scott has more.
They've taken to the streets, chanting the names of Black Lives Lost. A summer of racial unrest now turning into a call to action to vote on Election Day. Organizers are now working overtime to educate and mobilize young voters.
Just from May to June, the amount of people we registered jumped 15 times. As far as we could tell, that was entirely driven by George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter political awakening that was happening.
They went out and they registered based on that. So Black Lives Matter is a Marxist organization, but right now it's not operating organically. It's under the control of these. It's been co-opted. Not that I would have liked the group either way, just based on the title, but I would look at the deeds that it does and judge it appropriately. So it is possible that it would be controlled by establishment, and I would still support it. So I just because it's establishment doesn't mean I don't like it. But so it's a Marxist group, but they are controlled by the establishment. The establishment is playing a dangerous game because this group right here has popped up in world history over the last, I don't even know how far back. I know since the 1940s. Various forms of this group have popped up all over the world. This group is for real. This group is a very dangerous, in my opinion, domestic terrorist organization. It's decentralized. There's no, face leader of it, but it's still an organization. Like, you've got to organize to get trucks of people to certain places, like we know they have done. The establishment has not directly given money to them, to my knowledge. The only time, that's why it really caught my eye, when in Minnesota there's an autonomous zone, and they gave money. I want to know where that money went. That would be the first case that I'm aware of money from the government establishment, even though it's local, going to a anti-fascist group, which is insanity. This group cannot be controlled. This group here, Black Lives Matter, I think I'm sorry, I just have to be honest. We're easily controlled. That group is no threat at all, because that group always bets back to the establishment. We talked about black people and their voting with the Democrat Party. And then everybody says, well, what do you want me to do? Vote for Republican? No, it's all the establishment. So you can actually leverage a no vote at the general election. And I think it's still important to vote at your local, but you can leverage a no vote. Like, you need to do something for me. But back to Antifa, that is the group why it pisses me off. That's the group that I'm very angry about, because that group is, Antifa it is a really smart organization. They have tied themselves in with Black Lives Matter. In certain areas, they've acted as bodyguards for Black Lives Matter. Andy No has spoken on that.
What's the relationship between Antifa and BLM?
So in 2020, there was in my view, a fusion of the two movements. And I saw that most clearly in Antifa Black Bloc volunteering as armed security militia type groups for BLM events. As of right now, they share a common ideology in their militant opposition to law enforcement, to the rule of law, to property rights, to the right in America, the conservative right. So they have enough common enemies and common goals right now that they are working together. They're in unison for the most part. And Antifa's chants are no different from BLM chants. The graffiti is no different. And they have a common enemy in taking down and destroying the founding ideals of America.
So that group is tied with them. So that even though the establishment does not control that group, I don't think they have any control over them. Very little. They don't want to go after that group because it's going to appear to go after this group too. And it might hurt them with voting. They're already thinking about 2022. They might need Black Lives Matter. If Black Lives Matter isn't a thing or really isn't that popular or hot, then who cares? But if it is, then they'll use that to get people out to vote. So that's why it's the attachment between Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which is troubling, because Antifa's the one, they're very out there, and the establishment, no one has control over them. I think the establishment thinks we can squash them anytime we want to. We can. And in a way, Antifa might want that, because then they can say, look at the mean, we were only throwing rocks, and look at the mean establishment fascists out there. But what do you think about that? That's how I view this whole structure, everything that's going on right now. Let me know what you think. I might just do shorter future ones on this, because it's interesting when you throw China in here. And there's articles about how China has infiltrated into entertainment, for example, or universities or schools. So if China is infiltrated in here, how does that affect the message that gets to the people? The reason why China would infiltrate here is to get to the people at the bottom. The other interesting thing is race. Let's say there is a true progressive group. Let's say these are the fakes, like AOC or whoever else, just hypothetically. And this is the real progressives. And these progressives are reaching the people. And then you still have MAG over here. This is what I'm really pissed off about, is because if you get people together, no one can stop us. That's why I have the American flag in my logo. The American flag represents us down here. I know the whole thing is American, but I'm doing it for the common person. What they do is we can't have real progressives saying, let's say, for example, Cori Bush. Cori Bush has been, all this thing about January 6th. So she's been trying to ostracize this group here. That's establishment talking point. Establishment doesn't like this group. Cori Bush, under the guise of this progressiveness, is actually attacking this group over here. Terrible. If you are a real progressive, that's what Jimmy Dore's done when he's gotten Boogaloo Boys, whatever, different people on his show to show we have a lot in common. Why don't we focus on what we have in common and form a big block that makes some whole changes in this whole system here? Instead, all you have to do is bring up race. All you have to do is bring up race. I'm going to do a different color. You bring up race, boom. Black, wherever, you stay in your group. Non-black, you stay in your group, and you two fight. So that's what's happening. Black, you stay in your place. Non-black, you stay in that place, and you two fight. And then the group all up here, all safe, because we're back here on the ground level going back and forth. And instead of being together, that's when the establishment gets scared. So thanks a lot for listening. I appreciate it. Let me know what you think. This is just a real quick draft. I put maybe something's off or wrong. We could add stuff. I appreciate it. Let me know in the comments. Take care. Thanks for listening.